Yeah,
Peter.
John, I would just like to tell you that right here it's 22, 19 military hours, and it's like 64.4 Fahrenheit. So it's pretty late in the evening. So it's like
Yeah, it's like 8:20, right? Is it 8:20 by you?
18, yeah, 18. Okay, you mean time? Time is like 10:20, and
I'm so confused.
no, it's
I'm joking.
and yeah, I would just like to tell you that it's okay warmth during the day. It can be almost like 30 degrees, which is equivalent to I have to check that. But anyway, I see that Mart is here, so I don't want to interrupt too much, but
I'm going to help you guys out with the explanation there. I've been listening, jumping in and out, trying to get the mic. Tish, room temperature, that's about, like 21 degrees Celsius, will be 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, gotcha.
That's room temp. And when it's hot outside, getting up to body temperature, 37 degrees Celsius, it will be around 98 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, so it gets that hot there too, huh?
Yeah, and now we will start this historical space in totally the wrong end because of this. Because it is Celsius, that is Falukorvien AB. Operation Falukorv, yet again. Anders Celsius, he was born in the year of 1701. And he was an astronomer and, one of the oligarchy men, so to speak. He is the one behind the Celsius thing.
Oh, interesting. How interesting that we just brought that up like that. Wow, we're all like psychics. Okay.
Yeah. Again, a Swede. Again, a Swede. It is quite interesting, the story behind that. It has to do with the absolute zero. And the absolute zero, that is very cold. I would say very, very cold. That's about minus 459 degrees Fahrenheit and minus 273.15 degrees Celsius, as in Anders Celsius, a Swedish astronomer.
Was he an astronomer? Like he followed the stars? Okay.
Yeah, and lots of stuff. He was a scientist. He died young, of course. They usually do, like Mr. Birkeland, our nuclear man, and the fertilizer as well goes for him and Haber. Haber also died young. This kind of that important little piece of history that nobody recognizes.
It's all very intriguing.
Very intriguing. Intriguing.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
Oh, sorry, we didn't do that. We just walked straight into a conversation about.
No, I was saying, Maud. I was saying hello as people came in. I was.
Yeah. Welcome, John. Welcome, Peter. We also got. I think Brian will join the when he gets in the right position. He will join the speakers. And be throwing out his things. Peter is already there. That's our checkpoint. When Peter doesn't understand what I'm talking about, he will interrupt me and say, "Now you're going all crazy," as per usual. So it is Midsummer tomorrow is one of the very, very sacred days in Sweden. And we're going to also explain the Falukorv to you guys. Not the Operation Falukorv, because that is the history we are talking about, more or less, in some circumstances. But we have to call it for something. So we have all these small operations. We have all these small gladiator operations. We have, well, the wars are not a small thing, but they are still, so getting it to the depth. But we will also explain the Falukorv as in as the Falukorv is, because the interest have arisen here. So we will still call it Operation Falukorvien or Operation Falukorv, which has no translation actually. It is what it is. It is a sausage, and it's been hanging around here in Sweden for quite a while. And I will put in the purple pill right now.
We don't have a pill, but
sorry, in the Jumbotron.
Yeah,
up on the top in the Jumbotron. Sorry, a very, very nice article from the secretary. Oh, she's already put it up. She's so fast. Well, I gotta revoke mine.
We love you. You're warp speed, Secretary. Warp speed.
Yeah, she's the secretary of the World Republic. That's the secretary of the World X Republic.
Yes, she is. We love you.
Amazing capabilities, and so we're gonna talk a little bit about Midsummer, because it is tomorrow. It's a very big day here in Sweden. Everything is closed, and today it's a big travel day. Hopefully no big accidents and so on. So it's busy traffic. Everybody's traveling, and now the Swedes are going to the coast and or to summer houses, lake houses, etc. The camping grounds will be filled, and people will also be filled, and they will be really shit-faced. At least tomorrow, they will eat the herring and the potatoes as per tradition. We do that every, Christmas, Midsummer, Easter, it's always the herring thing, because that it was a traditional food from the Sea that provided, life for people back here. It was basic food with, back in the day when you have to salt it to keep it and so on. So it's one of the basic foods. I think we had quite a bad, not a bad, but a different diet back in the day.
We eat herring on New Year's Eve for good luck. My family does herring. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the Swedish smörgåsbord as well. So it's and there are many different ways of making it. Actually, it tastes quite good. You get it in this kind of different tastes, together with mustard, together with onions and so on, which will be laying in I don't know the English word for that. I have to check. I don't know the English word for that. But in a kind of
sauerkraut.
No. You will get them in a mixed in a can in the store, but they are cooked together with different stuff, and then they are preserved in
like pickled.
Yeah, like pickled. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we do pickled herring on holidays as well.
Yeah, that's the correct name. It's pickled. Sorry, of course. I love some pickled stuff actually, so I should know that word. I just lost it. I'm not, my English doesn't stretch to the food area that much. It's not a big priority for me. So I'm not so good at that. But so the history here is it connects to religion, of course, and this is why we want to talk about this in a historical perspective. For you guys that follow, some of you have seen me wandering around in Husaby, where we baptized the first king of Sweden, the first baptized king of Sweden. There were kings before him, officially, according to the historical narrative. But then we have the rewriting of history is ongoing as we speak. So then we go to something called Rökstenen, the smoke stone, which is one of the oldest rune stones in the world. It's a really, really old one. It's from around 800, I would say. And that tells quite a different story. And there actually are churches that are from, around that time as well. So this is quite strange because the churches were here before the religion, and it is a mess. Okay, it is a mess, and the history is hidden. So probably there were both the paganism or the Nordic paganism, which was quite heavily with Thor and Odin, Frey and Freya, Yggdrasil, the information carrier Ratatorsk, the squirrel that is running up and down Yggdrasil and giving disinformation and misinformation. It is the Nordic mythology is for somebody that is not educated back in it and have the decode. It will tell one story, but for the ones in power, it will just be a instruction book of how to control people. And that one is old. Nobody really knows how old that mythology is, but the stories are there and they are pretty well preserved as they are told, and they remind a little bit about the Iliad and Odyssey and so on. So it's quite interesting actually how this has developed over the years. But the paganism or the Nordic paganism, that was a heavy topic on a long time. They didn't fall for all of the regions and so on. Did not jump into the church thing. It took quite a while, I would say. So I think also that Secretary will put out a link to a movie, an American movie about this, and it's a bit of a scary one. So for sensitive viewers, please have a hand to hold on, a strong hand to hold on when you watch it, because it is really not it is a scary one. It's not a scary movie, but it's still scary, I would say. So we kept on sacrificing, which is called blot, B-L-O-T, for quite a while here. And now we are talking both humans and horses, different animals and so on the Midsummer blot. And that was to indulge, I think it is indulge their gods that they had at that time, Thor, Odin, Freya, and all of this, and They did it at special locations, often where you have a big tree, so you could actually hang up the victims of the blot, which were bled out. And it had also a function because, you know, well, it was not very densely populated, so it was also a get together to make marriages and so on and so forth, and also to make babies. So it was, of course, several different things. I would say there was also for a long time there was something called I can't translate that. With the neighboring countries, which were not nations at that time, more or less, but with the neighboring countries, they had one that kept on going for quite a while, where the leadership and big entourages of people from the neighboring countries were visiting the Uppsala region, which is allegedly the center of the Swedish power. But I say allegedly because this is debated and have been so for many years. Where the real Uppsala was, it is not 100% proven, and I'm gonna get sorry for the interference here. So I'm gonna get some power here. So that is debated quite a bit among the historians and so on. So, and then they gathered and they had a official sacrifice. And the strange thing here is that during this, let's say after year 1000 or so, when both of these, the paganism and the Christianity, were existing, both of them, the ones that still obeyed that converted to Christianity, they had actually to pay a fine for not showing up at the blot or refusing to go to the blot in gold, silver, whatever currency were available. And that's quite typical Swedish, actually, or Falukorvien, AB, ink. It was not formed, of course, at that time, but it's quite typical. They were fined for not showing up or refusing to go. It's quite interesting. So I would. I will read a little thing from one of the historical scriptures or writings. Sorry, not scriptures, writings. That is the one that sort of everybody agrees upon, that this is somewhat a description of this. And it is a gentleman called Adam af Bremen, from German heritage, that have, he was a historical person at that time. So that one has been the sort of the ruling document for the Swedish historians and the European historians when it comes to Sweden, which is very little documented. It is such a gray area. You would not believe it, that one of the oldest kingdoms are so very, very not documented. It's quite strange, actually. compared to all others, and with the dominant role it had in Europe and so on, from the Vikings and from 700 and forward, and still does. They're very good at hiding things. So I will read a little bit from Adam af Bremen, or Adam from Bremen's. Thor was the most popular of the gods and ruled over thunder and lightning, wind and rain, sunshine and crops. He was placed in the center with the scepter in his hand, and on his sides sat Odin, the god of war, in full armor, and Frey, the god of peace and love, provided with a huge erect male limb. All the pagan gods are assigned priests who offer the sacrifices of the people. In the pestilence of famine threatens, sacrifice are made to Thor, in war to Odin, and at weddings to Frey. Frey, the god of peace and love. And this symbol, a male limb, is still the symbol that we use actually in quite another sentence. I will see through it that secretary might have a picture of this here. So we have the Midsummer pole, which actually is a symbol of a male limb penetrating the earth with the balls up in the air, so to speak. And believe it or not, the strange thing here is that this is kidnapped, you could say, when a German school enters into this. We could say that things are starting to change, and nowadays, believe it or not, people are jumping around in a kind of jumping as a frog dance around this male penis stuck into the earth, and singing a song that they are little frogs and they have no ears and no tails. But that is a later on translation. No ears and no eyes. Just like the monkeys sitting, the monkeys that hear nothing, see nothing.
Hey, Matt, can I add something?
Yeah, go.
And so that sort of phallic, well, not phallic in that sense of, what you're describing, but I mean, it's really infiltrated everywhere, and we see that in the Washington Monument. It's known as an obelisk, and in other type societies as well. But I mean, even our flagpoles, it's symbolic of a claim, right? And so when they claim something, and it's the penetration into the earth, it's the claim through the phallic symbol of the obelisk. And so another thing that's been done through history in our culture, we call it just old wives' tales or nursery rhymes. You see a lot of this as well in kids' games. So like the frog leaping over, the kids playing leapfrog, or ring around the rosy. Those are all symbols of the same thing as well. And actually, it's quite interesting too, because if you guys remember, the last RNC convention that was held, the one that, well, I shouldn't say the last one that was held, but the last one that Trump was a major part of during his term, it was the one that Melania came down with the green dress and the red shoes, the one that it kind of depicted the last scene of Godfather type movie ending with the song and dance at the end. But he did display around the Washington Monument, and if anybody paid attention, he actually lit a series of fireworks going around the bottom of the Washington Monument, symbolic of the collapse or the explosion of the corrupt temple in Washington.
That is a good thing, isn't it? We have one of the obelisks in center of Stockholm as well.
Well, and that's part of 9/11 too, because they brought down the Twin Towers and then erected the obelisk, the one singular one with the spire on top, in same sort of ritualistic sort of bringing down the twin flames in the erecting of the singular phallic obelisk, which is in its place at this point in time. I mean, 9/11 was so much more than what a lot of people even could fathom in symbology.
I will just put a picture on the opening post as an answer to the secretaries on the midsummer bloat on the post underneath it, so you can see one of those fellows symbols penetrating the earth. The triangular on top is more or less for practical reasons, but it also said to have some symbolical value, but it's not always there, so it is not purely traditional. From the beginning it looked so, and the saying also says that you wear the girls, they put they do one of those rings and put on in the hair or on the head with flowers from the meadow flowers mainly. And if you pick 7 of the meadow flowers and put underneath your pillow, if you are a girl, the night before, that means tonight, actually right now, it's the midsummer night is almost starting, you will dream of the man you will marry. That's not confirmed that it works. I cannot make any claim that I know that works, but I've heard people actually talking about it. So, but that's that's an old saying.
Matt, I do have a question that's interesting to me. So here we are in June, and it's the 20th, so the day before the 21st. And so 30 days from now would be what we would consider the summer solstice or midsummer. So why is it that June the 21st is midsummer in I guess the recognized sort of time frame? Is that because the change in the holidays or the calendar, or how did that come about?
Well, it is quite easy actually, because it's in the Nordics the sun will not go down. It's the longest. It's one of the longest days with light.
So it's almost evidence that actually not only of the calendar change when we went from to the Julian calendar, but the actual day itself being the length of time. So this is proof that actually today would be probably going into tomorrow would be the longest day, as evidence of actual midsummer as opposed to July, the summer solstice then, right?
Yeah. So back in the day, people were, they had this mapped out in perfectly, like the native Indians, and the natives here. They knew exactly what, or the cycles of the moon and the sun. Because they were dependent on it for their everyday life, and also for survival. To put the crops in when they were supposed to do the movements of the animals, and so forth and so on. So they were very aware of this. So I mean, it has nothing to do with religion, I would say, at all. It's just religion that have adopted their holidays to the old ones, because they needed, to get people over to the, instead of bloating, they were supposed to go to church, more or less. So so they have to adopt, their calendar, the church calendar, the calendar of Christianity, with some exceptions, but it's, oddly enough, it seems to be fitting with this old let's call it both that goes for Easter and Christmas and so on as well. Wherever the Christmas tradition is quite interesting, actually, and that goes back to the Finnish mythology, which is very, very old. You could speculate in that who was called the All Father in the Finnish mythology of the Bock saga. That could be the reference to, and then he, somewhere along the road they kidnapped that to hide the All Father, according to that mythology, and made him into Father Christmas instead. And of course, Father Christmas home is in Rovaniemi, where I am actually have my roots, just around the corner from there, where I also are growing, like, these Formula One drivers and the World Rally Shape. They are also from around those, that hood, so to speak, and that is not densely populated. It's in the way above the polar circle and so on. So it's way up north in Finland. You are just a stone throw from Russia, and really not far away from the North Pole. Actually, that's the sort of, you have Norway on the side, and squeezed in between there is a chunk of Sweden as well, but it's way up north. And Father Christmas is allegedly from there. They actually claim that, these days, making it more or less some kind of tourist attraction. But the legends and the Finnish epos Kavala is the basis for Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. That's the basics, the moral sentiments and the grand old description of how the world is, created, functioning, whatever. It comes from there. And Tolkien, he wandered along, actually in Sweden, where you have the different places, locations, names that are used in the Lord of the Rings. Pretty much, I have actually lived just a few kilometers away from one of them for many years. So it's quite odd, actually, when it comes to this, where it's sort of the focal point is getting towards that, and of course the nefarious central banking system, and so forth. I would assume that the knowledge, you guys, you since we are doing what we are doing, you are way ahead of the competition, and you will be able to smile at them and say, well, Operation Falukorv, I'm one of the OGs. Now we are understanding this and getting our history straightened out as well. But being from the great warriors, the Longobards, Tisha's ancestors, and so on. So we will get there eventually, when we have a sort of a pretty good and a relevant description of history, how it's been nefariously hidden, nefariously conducted, and the conduction, the elegant and deadly precision of the operations from let's call it Viking 1.0, Viking 2.0, Viking 3.0, and we are sort of we are in the later stages of the 3.0, I would say, here in the Western world, at least. And now we have the global South, and also including our neighbors, the Russians, standing up to this and saying this is enough. We had it with you guys, even if we are of your heritage as well. So I mean, when Putin tells this to Tucker Carlson, he really means something. He's talking about, we are coming from the Kiev Rus, the Kiev Viking kingdom, that is the beginning of Russia, as with the society that grew up there, which is traceable and trackable throughout history. So it is quite things go, everything will come together, and when we understand the let's say the whole concept of it, we will say, why didn't people listen to the nefarious Henry Ford that got the great Iron Eagle from the little guy with the mustache and so on, which was the puppet of the oligarchs, including Ford and Bush and the Rockefellers, the Wallenbergs, of course, and the Warburgs and all of these other guys. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Bless you.
And in that era of time, it was all out in the open. And Ford says honestly in an interview, and this is like public knowledge, if people did understand the financial system or the central banking system, there would be a revolution tomorrow morning. And he really means it. He's honest in that sense. So he was a pretty straightforward speaker and guy. So, and now we're here at the verge of a second revolution. We are doing something, like a 70-76, but on a global scale, because the adversary is the same. It's the same entity as the 70-76 was all about. That was the East India Company. That's Viking 2.0 at that point in time. And then there was a 100-year battle of the banking system in the US. 100 years of battle, which of course resulted in a civil war. And in 1871, there was a coup d'etat, a silent coup d'etat, an infiltration coup d'etat. And strangely enough, this is just a couple of years before the East India Company is dissolved, and we enter the era of Fed and world wars, or actually never-ending wars, I would say. So that goes together. And
So, Matt, here's another question. How much of a coincidence is it that the history story told about the the male's member is such a part of the historical importance and significance of different things, and your actual country itself looks like that same member? Do you think there's a connection there at all?
repeat that so I get it. I didn't
Do you
get
think
it. That
there's
was
a
complicated.
okay? No, that's fine. I was beating around the bush. No pun intended. But is there any coincidence that the shape of Sweden looks like the same penis symbol that is spoken about?
Well, that is. I would say that is maybe that is one of the few coincidences actually. But the map in itself, it's interesting that you're saying this. That is a good joke actually. It actually looks like a penis if you draw the borders around it from the space station. Yes, it does. But the map is drawn the wrong way. The lines are going from north to south, but the people living here is from east to west. That is a classic divide to conquer, just as they've done in the oligarchs have done in Africa, and especially in the Mid East, and especially around Israel. They did not even hide it. I think it was Mr. Picot that said during this, and this is noted and it's historical documented. Well, we prefer the strategy of divide and conquer through putting the borders to divide and conquer. Nation states. After 1648, Axel Oxenstierna, the Treaty of Westphalia. There were no nations before that, not in the concept that they are now, not even close. And then the banking thing gained speed after that. And just 20 years after the Westphalia Peace Treaty, after a long war in Europe, where the Viking sort of 2.0 mission were completed, we have the world's first central bank. And in 1694, we have the second one. And the second one is inside the city of London. It's called Bank of England and will be the dominant force for long time. And at this moment in time, we have the East India Company full up and swinging. We have people more or less fleeing, I would say fleeing from Europe, because they can see what is coming and they do not want that for their future generations. They will go to the US, they will travel over the sea, they will risk the lives of both, family, kids, and so on, to go to US to have a fighting chance to stand up to this. And the fight will begin, especially in 1776, successfully enough. And then it will just continue, the battle for the banks, which will cause lots of damage in the US, of course. And it's lost for a while. And right now, as we speak, the Midsummer, the longest day of the year, tomorrow. This day is also long. It's still, well, the sun is not shining outside, but it's not dark at all. So way up here in the north, you are still fighting it. And this time it is also a fight for the other Western countries. So this is the real fight. This is the one time in history when the population of US is actually fighting for the rest of the Western world. This is how it is. It's obviously so. And we can, of course, talk about that. But for me, it's obviously so. So let's hope that you will not be forced into jumping around the Midsummer pole with your hands on your back, waving a little frog tail. I have nothing against frogs as such. It is actually from a march song that is actually a French song, a march song, an army song. And then the British, they stole the song and they rewrote it a little bit about the frogs. They call the Frenchmen for frogs. And I've done so for a long, long time. And that was then, stolen or borrowed and used here. For me, it is to mock the population. Little frogs are funny to see. No ears, no tails they have. And the original was, of course, no eyes they have. No ears and no eyes. And then they actually...
Does that mean they can't hear, they can't see what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. It is a mockery of the people.
Yeah, because of their hidden language, right? So their sign language they use, we're blind to their sign language because it's in a secrecy of the hidden hand, and then their secret language that they verbally speak, it's unheard because it's coded.
Yeah, and this is an open mockery. This is like for the kindergarten oligarchy. This is what the oligarchs learn in kindergarten. Look what we made them do. Look,
and then
they are jumping around a symbol that they don't understand, and they are singing that they cannot see, they cannot hear.
And look what happened. They infiltrated into the court system. That's how the courts operate, through the bar.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the common law used, and the common law is, of course, implemented by no else than William the Conqueror, as he did with the city of London, and he is the heritage of the Viking Rollo, and the bloodline there stays intact until Elizabeth I. She's the last one in the true bloodline. But James with the Bible, that will come later on, and so on, they are still, half cousins and whatever, they are, and to always make sure they have a Nordic princess or queen married into it to make sure. So you always have a Danish or a Swedish or a Norwegian or whatever when it's somebody that is not, directly. And she's the ones that kicks off the East India Company and hands that grant to the oligarchs of the time. And in the background here, we have Axel Oxenstierna, the true rock star of central banking, the guy who entered Richelieu's palace around 1640, something like that. This is the only time Richelieu goes out on the porch, so to speak, to meet anybody. And Oxenstierna are coming in his carriage, and the whole, well, let's call it German, what is today Germany, more or less, and surroundings of that, with the whole blue bloods running, meaning the rich people from, of the conquered, they are running behind his carriage. That is a rock star, and that is the guy behind the central banking system. He's a one-man walking, conquering Europe. We have a king and so on that is called the Lion of the North and everything and so on. But the Lion of the North, he sits statue at Mr. Oxenstierna, of course, has several properties. The first central bank is put in his old house, is in his residence house in Stockholm. So, but also on his castle. And this is really funny when we are coming. That is the Tidö Castle. And the government right now, it's called the Tidö government that we have, the collusion that we have now, which is sort of a right-wing government. They made it, the talks and the deals. They did that at Tidö Castle, which is very strange. I've not really done it before. So it's called the Tidö Treaty, what we are living under now when it comes to the theatrics of politics in the Kingdom of Sweden. And yesterday, as just for educational purposes, the DCA agreement, meaning the United States with 17 bases that will be under total American, that's more or less the usual deals that US have, but that was concluded and voted through in the Swedish Riksdag, which is the same as the Senate. You could say we don't have a Congress in that meaning, but we have a Senate that is straight on legislative as well. Very strange. We don't have a three-part system here. We are in a monetary kingdom thing with a theater government. But anyway, so at this castle.
Wait, we do have two hands. Matt, did you
Oh, sorry, I didn't look at the screen.
No, you're fine.
We go to that. I'm just going to wrap Axel Oxenstierna up here. So at this castle, where we have all this kind of educational using this name, with 99.99% of the Swedes didn't have a clue about before. Now everybody knows the name of Tidö, which is Axel Oxenstierna's old castle. At this castle, we have Mr. Oxenstierna standing up with his sword on his side and so on, fully armed, and sitting unarmed and even without a hat, I think. Or, back in the day, it was important what you wore on your head. Is the Lion of the North, the Gustav II, the warrior king. He's sitting there underneath Oxenstierna. Oxenstierna is having his hand on his shoulder and, showing who is the boss. That is a big statue standing in the garden of his castle. That was how it is. He was a rock star, and he wanted to show it as well. He wasn't shy about it. So this is the guy that have caused you the banking system that you are living in right now. I can guarantee you that. Without him, it would have probably looked quite differently. He was the mastermind. Let's go to the hands. We have Frank Martin up and Kelly as well.
Yes. Kelly was first. Go, Kel.
This goes back to the frogs, and it just struck me when you were saying it that there's scripture that says eyes to see and ears to hear, and I wonder if that little song didn't infer some kind of godlessness also.
I would say so. There are often double meanings in this, so I would agree to that. It's speculative, of course, but I would agree to that. The frogs are a symbolical animal of many kinds, so I would agree to that. It is a rather decent speculation, Kelly, I would say.
Right.
That's a good catch, Kelly.
It could be that we need to kiss them. Who knows?
Kiss the frog. Frank, did you have a question, sir?
Well, more of a statement. I think it's plain to see for most of us that the three-branch system federally that people refer to as a government which I guess technically speaking, they do look to govern the mind or control through, again, the mass propaganda, psyops, miso, whatever you want to call it. But I think we can all agree that, by and large, it has failed the people of this nation, and I mean all people, no matter what stripe, creed, whatever. I mean, it's all around us, and it's direct in terms of the usurpation of what is enshrined in our Constitution. And I put an example of this into the nest, where again these powers that be, many of them are beholden or they are complicit outright, and they are basically chipping away directly at our Bill of Rights and the freedoms that are enumerated within them. And this is an example of how they codify through these unconstitutional bills language, which is tyrannical, which would basically undermine the very verbiage that is enumerated within the Bill of Rights. And I know there are those that will say that that's basically, frivolous anyway, because the United States is defunct, it's null and void, because the United States is, as we know it, as the corporation and such, has declared bankruptcy multiple times in form, whether it was after the Civil War or whether it was under FDR. And we know this to be true, and it ties into the central banking system, it ties into the end of Bretton Woods, and it also ties into what just took place with Saudi Arabia ditching the petrodollar. Which is actually the next post that I put up into the nest, which is with respect to, again, these shortfalls in these completely bankrupted, Ponzi schemes. And we shouldn't even call them Ponzi schemes, because it's not just, Ponzi in Italian. Okay, we had of course Bankman-Fried recently. We had, of course, the big Ponzi scheme in 2008. That was what's his name? Somebody help me.
I can't think of his name.
Crypto scam. Yeah.
No, the 2008.
Madoff. The older man.
Madoff. Yeah. So it came to me. But the thing is, like, the government is the one that is basically writing the textbook and using the same playbook over and over again when it comes to these things, because again, it's families that control, clandestine families that control the central banks behind the scenes, that own the shares of the intermediary banks that are behind the likes of BlackRock and Vanguard, and of course the Federal Reserve itself, which of course pays interest on the national debt, which is closing in on $35 trillion now. But of course, there's a dividend that is paid out of the interest on the national debt, and guess who gets that dividend? The private owners that are behind the shares of the Federal Reserve banking system. And they're the names that you don't see. They're the same. Undoubtedly, there's overlap between the private, undisclosed shareholders of the Vanguard and those that own into the central banking cartel. And I have no problem calling it cartel, because it is collusion at the federal level, and it is, it is infiltrated. And it's not even so much infiltrated as it is that for a long time it has been subverted, and we've known this since Kennedy, when he called it outright for what it is, and it has only gone deeper into the so-called deep state and swamp as the decades have rolled by. And of course, if there was a nail in the coffin in terms of the U.S. Hegemony worldwide, we certainly saw economically that was nailed in terms of removing Glass-Steagall, and that was under Clinton. And then, of course, the Bushes were no exception in terms of perpetrating these wars around the world that were endless. And, of course, it's about natural resources. Of course, it's about drugs. Of course, it's about human trafficking. And if you don't believe that, then, unfortunately, you just need to do more research. And the same goes for what's going on in Ukraine today, with it being a large portion of, I think it's about 35% of the world's breadbasket is in Ukraine. And of course, it's notorious for money laundering, human trafficking, and the whole nine. So everything that's taking place around the world with respect to these escalating conflicts is absolutely orchestrated behind the scenes. It's the illusion of a bifurcated world. Really, the powers that be at the top control all of it. And there are families that have been ruling for centuries, and they do work in over the course of dynasties in terms of generational wealth and transfer over the course of centuries. They don't think in terms of 5 years or 10 years. If you look at Rockefeller or you look at their Agenda 2050 prospectus, you could see exactly where they want to see things go over the next 5 years to 2030, but of course well beyond that to 2050. And of course there is evidence to support that there are global we'll call it climate change for the sake of expedience at the moment. But we all know that the Earth goes through many changes over the course of its history, but there are certain cyclical changes that could be more profound in terms of the planetary history. And this ties into religion and theology, spirituality as well. But I don't want to digress because I know this is more of a kind of look at what we can put our hands on tangible space. So I wanted to just point you in that direction, into the nest. There's plenty of resources there, as well as news of the day, because we don't get the news anymore. We get, of course, what we've been getting, which is, again, propaganda, but they don't even report the news around the world, what's taking place. We're basically the last to know in the United States, it seems, in terms of anything that's of any material, substantive value in terms of reported information from the media. So, again, many of us that are here as speakers are resources. Utilize us to the extent that you need to help get information local, because at the end of the day, it's about thinking global, but acting local. And I'll land with that. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you, Frank.
Tisha.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank. I agree on 99.9% of your points. I will do an ad on it, Frank. Actually, when you say Vanguard and BlackRock, you need to throw in investor. I will DM you.
Yeah, we throw State Street in there too, and there's many others that are culpable in all this. And again, the truth comes out eventually.
Yeah. But add in investor and do a little. I will send you a couple of articles, so that will help you to connect the dot, because that is the sort of the Viking 3.0. That is IG, from the East India Company. You have then in the next phase, it is IG Farben, American IG, Swedish IG, and then they will morph into the military industrial complex, which he started together with this Axel Oxenstierna guy. He's sort of, one of the main players there.
And by the way, this is beyond the Federal Reserve, of course. I mean, yes, they have their central banks throughout the world, but it also ties to the IMF and, of course, Bank of International Settlements and World Bank and all these things.
That is like Viking. That is Wallenberg all over the place and the Swedes when it comes to the Bank for International Settlements and, of course, the IMF and the connected World Bank. They are in
right. And by the way, with respect to and real quick, just with respect to SWIFT and that system, and again the architecture engineering that's behind the big clearinghouses that are behind the scenes, it's. Everybody knows that they've been working for a while now on these central bank digital currency platforms, these launch pads that they've already built out, and of course digital currencies. And we've heard a lot about the BRICS currencies, and of course, with the drop of the petrodollar by the Saudis and using a basket of currencies, let me rephrase that, using currencies from respective nations in which they're dealing. So let's say China is trading oil, and they're clearing it in yuan instead of US dollars, for instance. Obviously that's going to be a significant impact in terms of consumption and the usage and the need for dollars that have been exported around the world for a long time. And eventually those dollars do come home. And of course, the Federal Reserve, being the so-called buyer of last resort, they own a significant amount of treasuries, toxic debt on their balance sheet. I mean, it's well north of, I think it's over $7 trillion at the moment on their balance sheet. But again, there's so much toxic derivative debt, and again, things that would have already crashed this little charade had they not papered it over and just created more instruments, and that's what these are. These are just artificial instruments that are created as derivatives, and they call them investments, and they slap a label of investment grade on it because they have the credit rating agencies in the pocket for the most part. And again, when we see things like the BRICS currency going afloat live around the world, Okay, we have to also consider that the CIA was the entity that created that designation of BRICS. Okay, we also need to appreciate that the CCP basically controls and has networks within our own administration, obviously, as well as to these top generals. And you could see that with the push of the bioweapon on our military. And you saw a large amount of our military leave the forces, the armed forces, in 2020, 2021, as a result of refusing to take the jab, which, of course, many of them, not all of them, but many of these lots and batches were poisoned or riddled with side effects, adverse events, and so on. And I'm not going to get into a whole debate on mRNA right now, but the proof is in the pudding. I mean, anybody that, adds up the math, does the research, you can see exactly what's been taking place here beyond the subversion that's been taking place of our institutions. We have other nations and other actors, NGOs and such, foundations around the world that obviously have a financial interest, but it's more than that. It's about control, it's about power, and it's about depopulation ultimately. And we're seeing that play out through the old means of war, famine, and disease, or in this case, biological and chemical weapons once again.
Frank, I want to just add in respect to what Mott was highlighting though too, and granted, you're absolutely spot on with a lot of the things you're saying, and when you're dealing in, especially when it comes to mRNA and different things like that, look at the players, right? And I think this is one thing that was really crucial that Mott was highlighting because of the impact of what Sweden has, but it's unspoken, right? Here comes the hidden hand again, rearing its ugly face in a lot of layers of likenesses, or a lot of layers of things that seem similar or seem the way to go, but yet what are they doing? Just misleading people off. And one of the cases of that just blatant slight is ABB. And so when you have investors bank in ABB and you have the players behind them like the Wallenbergs, you're now talking the NASDAQ, and you're now talking big pharma like AstraZeneca, right? And so when you have these huge companies and corporations that are pulling the purse strings behind these derivatives that you're talking about, and so we just call them the fiat or the greenbacks or whatever, look what happens. All hell breaks loose, a market collapses, and then what are they going to do? Usher in the CBDC and the world currency, right? Under a new guise, a new umbrella of something that looks shiny and easily tangible. And we can see that. I can see it clear as day, and I think you're spot on when you say, yeah, look a little bit deeper, because if you go into the players that are involved, look at the collaborations between WASP AI, which is Wallenberg AI, and ChatGPT. Who are the players behind that? Now you're having not only Peter Thiel, but then you have who's the big player behind ChatGPT? Why has he been out on the news? And, I'm not going to name him by name just for the, sake of the space, but you know who I'm speaking to. And what does that have to do with the world coin? What does that have to do with, global currency and things like that? It's because of the technologies. It's because of the people behind these technologies more important. And, you look at all of the warfare and the tactics being used on a scale of now our government figures being able to easily hide behind plausible deniability, number one, but number two, also being able to hide behind unmanned drones. Like, that didn't have a part, as in our U.S. Air Force and WASP AI and DARPA getting involved with drone warfare. Look what happened to Hawaii. I mean, you got to be freaking kidding me. Now they could sit back and say, oh, well, we don't know who did it. Are you kidding me? But, I think it's really important, though, to inevitably go to, the few real key culpable aspects of things. And ABB has their disgusting dirty fingers in so much. It's unfathomable for sure.
Yeah.
But great point.
Ericsson as well, so they are the giant players here when it comes to the SWIFT system, to the NASDAQ. That is the Wallenberg family. That's no doubt about this. And if we look at it, if we take the rearview mirror and we check out these families that are the Second World War giants, that is per se very visible during this time. We have Ford, we have Wallenberg, we have Bush, we have, of course, Rockefeller with the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. IG Farben think tank, the most the most Nobel Prize laureates ever in one building. And the Nobel Prize is the merchant of that prize. And it's IG Farben, and IG Farben is today big pharma, and it throws itself also into the of course the Operation Paperclip is more or less IG Farben-ish.
And don't forget the Zyklon B that they produced, to kill so many people.
Yeah, that was used, and still the same components that actually are killing people today. I'm not going to say brands, but I throw one out, Remdesivir and so on. They are same but different, new package, but it is pretty much the same. And there is actually, interesting enough, a blue and yellow flag on the Zyklon B boxes or cans actually that were used. The gas thing, injections, and so on and so forth. The truth about that era will be revealed when the population is ready for it. I would say we are rewriting history.
And I'll say, as somebody who has mixed blood, I got Judaism on my dad's side, I got Christian on my mom's side, so. And yet I was bar mitzvahed when I was younger. I actually converted technically when I was a kid, but by blood, usually traditionally it's through the mother. So I'm kind of like an odd instance in that respect. I'm only sharing that just in terms of the context that even I, who actually was formerly raised not in a Jewish home in terms of traditions as far as like kashrus and things of that nature, but as far as the values that are Judeo-Christian, those values I do hold true and near and dear to my heart. And I will say that, for those of you who don't know, my third grade teacher, she lost her entire family in the Holocaust when she was a young girl. I've heard her testimony myself in front of Congress back in 1996. I've even put it on this platform. And I know that a lot of the numbers don't add up. And I'll be the first to say that it should be fully investigated and brought to light how many were actually, slain in the Holocaust. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask those questions. I don't think it's unreasonable to, to think critically. I think it behooves us all to think critically and look at, obviously, the corruption of the Rothschilds as an example. And again, I'm not blaming all Khazarian groups to say that they're all in the Khazarian mafia. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, what I am saying is that there are nefarious actors throughout the world that cut across all types, all stripes, all races, black and white.
They actually do. I can agree.
So I'm not trying to be verbose. I just want to point that out because at the end of the day, a lot of people were killed, murdered, genocide, yes. And we have genocides replete throughout the world, and we have it happening, obviously, in Gaza. We have it happening, obviously, in the bloodying, the battlefields of Ukraine, and what's going on, obviously, in Africa. For a long time, so many genocides, and it happens all around the world at this time. And yes, just because we have turned a blind eye in the past, perhaps, or been naive, as Americans to the nefarious activities of this so-called government, which is really a crime syndicate, we should not be turning a blind eye today with all that we know now. We need to unify and come together to be loud and clear that this must come to a stop once and for all.
I agree 100%, Frank. That goes back to what I said before. You are fighting the fight for the rest of the Western world, you as a population. And believe me, I've been called everything, anti-Semite and so on and so forth. And every time I bring this up, the problem we'll get to this. IG Farben was, the engine behind this, the major in the world, the major industrial complex. They were building these camps. They were using the workers. The ownership of IG Farben, which will be Warburgs and Wallenbergs and all of these people, around this. You just check American IG out. I made long articles about this. So then usually when this question comes up, I usually say, well, there could not be anything more anti-Semitic than IG Farben. And there the discussion ends and the yelling starts and the screaming starts and everything because of, oh, it was the Nazis. It was the Nazis. Yeah. The Nazis is a consequence of IG Farben and the ownership of the oligarchs. It is it is an operation called the Third Reich operation, and that is inside the operation Falukorvien, and that goes also for Paperclip. And it's
and by the way, that's the same rationale and logic behind why back in 2008 you had things like Lehman Brothers or Bear Stearns that were allowed to fail because, again, it's political and it's inside, and it's these families that are making these determinations, and then they'll make the determination of who is so-called too big to fail. Like when they were doling out the TARP funds while they were doling out trillions behind the scenes, overseas to the European banks to prop them up. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of this is just behind, people never are aware of it. And we only found out about those trillions, by the way, I'll say it again, because of the work of Dr. Ron Paul to even get that partial audit of the Fed a decade ago.
I like him. Actually, I do. So all credit to Mr. Rand Paul, actually. So yeah, agreed. Too big to fail, system threatening, blah 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 blah, rules-based world order, blah 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 blah. All of this bullshit that have been thrown at us for a long time. And of course, back to 1870s. 1874, the East India Company goes up in smoke, and at the same time, the German school, the Prussian school, is introduced as mandatory in Germany to set up the pieces for the First World War and the Second World War, because the Second World War is already planned when the First World War is executed. The First World War is just waiting for the Titanic/Olympic to submerge for the Fed to emerge.
And don't forget, Matt, this is 3 years after I call it the Inorganic Act was formed in the Americas as well in 1871.
Yeah, exactly.
Which actually begs the question. So here's one question I have for you. So here we go back in a time frame of okay, now you're gonna have to help me out here because I'm gonna try my hand in a little Swedish. So Falukorvien, is that correct?
Yep.
Falukorvien.
Falukorvien.
Tisha is using her ancestry here. She is speaking perfect Swedish.
Okay.
So Falukorvien is that is the name of a country,
Beautiful.
So
okay, there's my Swedish stuff for you. Okay, so now we have now the summer festival. Let's just call it the pagan shit show that comes about every year, and everybody, like you said, gets hammered and in one way, shape, or form, rises their spirits. Let's just say, whatever good or bad spirits they may be. And this is on what we know to be true based on light of day, where you are, of the true summer solstice. So that's evidence of itself in a time frame now of, let's just say, hoodwinking or undermining our true calendar. And now we're getting more evidence as the days and years go on. So what role does this have to play now into the 4th of July, right? Because now we have the staking of the penis into the ground with the flag of a new era, dawn of a new day, into what we know to be this land of the West, surrounded by the ports on either side. And so going back to what we know to be true with the East India Company, again, what role did they truly have to play in the independence as we know it to be staking that claim into the ground, considering that in 1666 the Queen had already sort of claimed the land. What role does July 4th play into the Midsummer festival that you guys have today?
May I also add something to that, which is, again, there's research out there that's been done on this in terms of this planned history, or this planned experiment of the creation of the United States. And you could also look at George Washington and those that came before him, in terms of, who was running things in the colonies before 1776. So there's some deep dives that I've done on this, which, again, look to basically there being this preordained period of 1776 to 2026 for there to be the creation and then the destruction of the United States. And just because they've written it that way doesn't mean that we need to take the bait and walk that and just march right into what they have tried to create in terms of this bloodshed around the world. And also, we don't want to see this, obviously, domestically, although, we see the writing on the wall with everything that's going on. I just want to contribute that because, again, there are no coincidences.
Agreed. There are no coincidences. I don't know if there is a straight connection between the 4th of July and the midsummer solstice. I think you pronounce it solstice. I think
Solstice.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Solstice.
Yeah.
Yes. Solstice.
I'm not sure about that. But one thing I'm sure about is, actually Frank mentioned that before, that is the long-term planning of these oligarchs. And one more thing that were briefly touched by Frank here is that they always test the grounds. The Russian Revolution, first one failed. Approximately 10-12 years later, they do the second attempt and succeed. It goes the same thing with the little guy with the mustache, with the Nazi project. And do believe me, that is a project run from Sweden. End of story. Göring.
And are we also going to talk about what's the other one? The that handles the telecommunications, Ericsson.
Yeah. That is, of course, more interesting actually than Ericsson, because Ericsson is just a concept. It is a follow up on Crypto AG. Without Crypto AG, which is a Swiss company allegedly, but it is grown out of ASEA cryptography, and then it will have some different names, but with crypto when it's still in Sweden, and then it's moved to Switzerland, just around the corner from the Bank for International Settlements, and Alan Dulles sitting at the OSS, which will become the CIA, and Thomas McKittrick is sitting on the protege of Wallenberg is running the BIS, or actually he's not running the BIS. The real guy that runs the BIS, his name is Per Jakobsson, and he's one of the Wallenberg's handyman. This is really, it is a shit show that they are out in the open. This is public knowledge. It's just to add one to one. Even the BIS has it on their homepage these days. They didn't have it before, but now they have it, and they even mentioned Per Jakobsson. He's there from the get go. 1929 on the BIS, and he's there until 52, 53. Then he goes to IMF for a while. He is one of the gray ones. He's all around at the universities and giving lectures and so on. He's very appreciated. There are funds and everything, but it's not public knowledge, or it is public knowledge, but people are too lazy to dig into it. But it is not complicated at all.
It's like Smedley Butler with the Wars racket. I mean, these are all rackets that are, simultaneously occurring around not just the United States, but around the world, especially with respect to academia, which has, for a long time used students as a conduit between federal funds created with the inflation out of thin air, essentially, to basically enrich the endowments and foundations of academia to pay these huge speaking fees to these speakers who are globalists. And also
speaking about fees and speaking fees. The largest speaking fee ever that I know of is actually Bill Clinton for Ericsson Company.
This is something like $900,000.
I knew it.
$750,000 for half an hour.
Okay. Yeah.
The Clinton Foundation and these people, they are straight on connected. They had one office outside the US, and that was in Stockholm for quite a while. That's the Clinton Foundation. These are nefarious. And if you go to the International Company Court, ICC, which of course has the name, is the same as the International Criminal Court, the one that went after Netanyahu the last time and do all of this.
Oh, the one in Sweden?
Yeah. Well, the criminal court is in Hague and the company court is in Stockholm, Sweden. So, it is Swedish oligarchy, the Wallenbergs all the way, in both of them, creating both of them. This is how they do it. They are very, and then you have the Nobel Prize for the fact. Let me put it this way: the Merchant of Death Prize.
Not so noble.
Not so noble. Thank you, Tish. Now we go. Thank you, Tish. Perfect.
Yeah, I think shit show sums it up pretty well.
Yeah. It is. You can check this out. And if you go to the Seraphim orders, and then Polar Star orders and these prices, you will find all the nefarious actors. You will find Woodrow Wilson. You will find, of course, Obama. He got the Nobel Peace Prize just a couple of months, 9 months into his presidency. And then he started more wars than anybody else.
9 months. 9 months. Amazing.
Yeah.
And don't forget, they award $1 million.
Oh, you're rubber banding. Yeah, they get finances.
My recollection is that they also award. Yeah, I think they get the Nobel Prize as well. Memories.
Yeah, but yeah. They receive funding in a large way. But I would tell you a story about this. The Nobel family, we can discuss. They are involved in the crypto AG thing as well as owners. They actually. The guy who will run this for a long time is called Boris Aguilin. His father is working for the Nobel family when they are the kings of Russia, the oil kings of Baku, back in the day. They are all weapons traders, based Russia actually. So Russia is their base, but they are Swedish. But Russia is their base for a long time. It starts way before the era of Baku and oil. So he works for them, and then they do a proxy for Ericsson and the Wallenbergs with these backdoor machines, so they can listen to everybody. Anyways, where were I going? I lost my train of thoughts there a little bit. And jumped into.
Yeah, my apologies. Thank you for allowing me to interject.
No problem. No, always interact. I do not mind interactions. So please continue. I do, and everybody that knows me knows that. Just interrupt me whenever if there is something you wish to, because the rants can get pretty long. So.
Well, there's so much information, Matt. I mean, it's greatly appreciated. Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to cut through, and you have such a unique way of presenting it that's very tangible and understandable the way you break it down. So thank you for that. One thing I wanted to add, though, just kind of looking at the timeline of how things come into play, because, well, my birthday, for instance, is December 21st, which is the winter solstice, and I was kind of taking a look at a timeline of different things, and there's no coincidences, obviously, with anything to their plan. But the middle of the time frame of what we're speaking to. So, for instance, you have the festival, the Midsummer Festival, as you call it. Uh, Based on that time frame in the lunar calendar, it actually is directly in the middle. The 4th of July is directly in the middle of what we know to now be the summer solstice and your midsummer festival. So that's pretty interesting. There's got to be some sort of connection there. It falling directly, I mean, directly in the middle of those two time frames.
Hey, just real quick, John, just speaking of interesting, it brought me back because I know Tisha and I share a birthday, and our birthday is basically numerology. It's both 33, which is the master teacher. And John, you have the same thing going on with 1221. You got a 33 right in there. So I just
Yeah, exactly. I know. There's no coincidence, man. And interestingly enough, so my son was born the 23rd of September, which is the fall autumnal equinox, right? And then my father passed away July 21st, which is the summer solstice. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on here?
So the 23rd of September was also, as I recall, the birth of Augustus Caesar, if memory serves.
Oh,
Somebody could
wow. Okay.
fact check me on that, but I believe that's one of the reasons that they do drop that date in the in some of these films and media and such. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do certain uh, ceremonies or rituals on that date, just like they do on the solstices, as we're quite well aware of. And this week is no exception to that, by the way.
Wow. Great info. Thanks for that, Frank.
Really quickly, I wanted to add that Jacko gave me a wonderful idea to put the space in the jumbotron so it could be retweeted. So if everybody wouldn't mind retweeting it, that would be wonderful. Thanks, guys, and thanks for the idea. That was awesome.
Yeah, and I had to put out Trump's speech in 2016 when he goes after the Clintons. Actually, I made a better video on that. See if I can find it, but.
Oh, so while you're doing that, just real quickly, so everybody's aware, obviously, we just had yesterday Juneteenth, which is now has been a federal holiday, and of course, I'm not going to speak on that because that can open a can of worms I'm not getting into right now. Today is an important day as well. It's a key portal date again when we look at the calendar. And of course, there's many of these this year in the year 2024, which is considered a karmic return, meaning that anything that has not been resolved in terms of life traumas, karma, or dharma that needs to be brought to resolution and can be brought to resolution may very well come to resolution this year. It has the opportunity to come full circle in 2024, which if you sum those 2, 0, 2, and 4 together, you get 8. And of course, today, June 20th on the Gregorian calendar, 6 and 2 and 0 once again is 8. Once again, you get 88. That is representative of transcendence. They use it in time travel films like Back to the Future and Donnie Darko. And, there's a deep dive on this that you can do
1984.
Yes. Well, that's another one I could get into. But tomorrow, of course, is the full moon. They call it the strawberry moon, but it's again another interesting moment because again, if you know that the billionaires they follow astrology closely, and we have the full moon, and of course the summer solstice, and they're literally back to back over the next 24 to 36 hours. So we have some very interesting timing going on over the next couple of days to just keep a watchful eye on events.
Gobble up your ivermectin. Buds are good. The parasites are going to be swarming for sure.
Yes, get your ivermectin out, guys.
Well, I don't know about you, but mosquitoes are annoying where I am. I'm in the Northeast.
I remember actually, Frank, you were talking about the long-term planning before what the oligarchy runs with here. Let us just call them for Investor Vanguard and BlackRock to simplify things, because the network is so vast and it's so big these days that it's impossible to see it. There are millions of people that have the sub oligarchs, not the real oligarchs, but the sub oligarchs. They have grown together with the enormous growth of people that we have, world population, which is not a problem in itself. The world is still not really overpopulated. There's no way that is happening. But the thing is that since Bretton Woods, or actually since the social security numbers, first in Sweden, of course, as per usual, in 1947, those were introduced. And then we for sure were organized under the Admiralty law, and lost at sea / chattel, per definition. So if we have quadrupled and even more the world population, of course, the amount of players that are invested as sub-oligarchs or sub-oligarchs or just useful idiots within their framework to withhold this system. That is actually the pure volume of people all around. That is actually one of the major problems that we have now. So many people, and now they are defending themselves because they know that we know that they know that we know. And this is now what have to be played out. This is what has to happen. And these people, they are not caving in. Even if the oligarchy has said, "Oh fuck, it didn't really work out this time. We ran into a bricks wall, a wall of bricks. This time we are not going to risk the let's say that our families, our grandkids and so on will be eliminated or something in along those terms. We will not risk this. We will make a deal. We will see if we can come back in 150 years or so. We have some, they are doing the usual planning, and we can see then, as Frank mentioned earlier, with the BRICS currency coming up. And it's coming up. You cannot do anything about it. We cannot do anything about it. Or the currency as a concept, their trade concept is officially launched in October. Yes, scheduled quite, coincidentally, just coincident, before the election. When the election campaign in the US are as hot as ever, I think the Fed will go tits up. It will do the last breath of the Falukorvien in the Fed will be drawn there, as per definition, and that is not a bad thing. I think people all over the world realize this, and nobody is blaming the US citizens, or no, so sorry, the people living within the continent that we call the Republic of the United States of America. The people, nobody's blaming the people. Well, some idiots might do, but those are not really relevant in this discussion. So I think the most people, they realize this, that you cannot get blamed for what your ancestors did, and you cannot get blamed for what the nefarious people that just happens to be on the continent / country / nations. I don't like nations as a concept. That this Axel Oxenstierna concept, just to make cheap soldiers, infanterist. It goes together. So with that said, the fight that is now, it is a sort of a civil war, but or a third world war. Actually, we are in a third world war that looks more or less like a civil war, because the enemy is everywhere, with inside each and every country, and the enemy knows that we know. And so I would say that the big oligarchy has already, made up their mind, settled this, and so on. And now we have to deal with all the sub oligarchs and the useful idiots, and that is a whole lot of people. Even on a global basis, it's you can't really count it, but that is a huge task. But
I mean,
I think
bottom line is people are going to have to take it as it comes and just deal with the ramifications of what's taking place here.
Yeah, and let go of the magic spell of the monetary.
I mean, thankfully, there's a lot of people that are still, going through every avenue to try to, push things in the better direction through the channels that have existed. Unfortunately, it's just we also know where those tend to lead.
Yeah, the total change in the media landscape that we are witnessing right now. We see we are seeing the old guards. Let's call it megaphone. It is dying. The information flow have gone from horizontal to vertical. From vertical to horizontal, and that is a good thing. But I need to put a but in there because of the twin-edged sword that the internet is. It is really a twin-edged sword. So as dear Miss Jossie would have said, you need to keep your head on a swivel. And Jossie, I hope you are listening to us up there, wherever you are. I hope so. We will never forget Jossie. We will mention her in all of these spaces, so nobody forgets her. She's one of the OG, and we are running this. Let's call it the number 2 series together with Tish, with James, and with everybody. In the honor of Jossie, that is was the true connector in this world where we are, and wherever she is right now, I hope she's dialing in. She's sitting there and throwing some hearts around. We cannot know. There are things that we are not supposed to know, or yet. We will find out sometime during our lifetimes. We will find out, but right now we have a nefarious central banking system that we need to make our fellow countrymen, neighbors, sisters, brothers, co-workers, whatever, to realize and understand. That is the sort of the base case of this. And it is not easy. I know that all of you guys hanging around in these spaces, listening into this, are struggling with this, because it's not really easy to explain this to somebody that is in a state of fear. That is the mass formation that we are living under, and have been so for a long time. And the mass formation is a semi-hypnotic condition, which will not, people still can work and function and whatever, eating the happy pills, dumbing down themselves, and so on. But however, it is a condition that is not easy to snap out of. And so tread carefully when you talk to people, and try to do your best. I know that you all are fighters with regards to this. So what we are trying to do, Tish, and secretary, and so we lost James. Sorry. I hope James is hearing this. He's maybe getting a mic
No,
back.
you mean John.
Oh, sorry, John. I hope that James is also here, actually.
Yeah.
He can speak about
He's here too.
monetary system. He can speak
But
about
but
monetary
but
system.
but John said he got booted out from the space, so he's trying to get back.
Yeah, we saw that. He knows what we are talking about. He's a true fighter. He's been there from the get-go as well. He's one of the OGs. So this time around, I think we are moving in the right direction. We are, getting the connections between the little oligarchy country. That is, it is like a little bit of a copy paste. What you will experience in the US, that has already happened here. This is the testing grounds. This is so pretty much we can see it. We know we have a little bit of a head start. Some of the Swedes have. The major population is so mass formatted you would not even believe it. The indoctrination level here is you think that you have it? Well, let's put it this way. It is a little bit worse around here. Being the guinea pigs, the testing grounds and so on, and being in the epicenter of oligarchy activities for a long time. But anyways, so that helps. But we need to also understand the complexity in such a large country. I've been to the US. It is a vast, large country. It is, and quite a few people as well. Russia is quite much more bigger, but of course not as densely populated. And the US is not densely populated, but Russia is like 13 time zones. And the thing is that if you look at it a little bit objective, Russia and US is carrying in a large chunk the same thing. It is, it's based upon a belief system towards God. Russia has many religions as US, but you have some main ones, and the tradition is a main one. So Russia is the values and the likeliness is quite astonishing, actually. If you just scale back all the narratives and just look at it for what it is, you will hear people having this quite the same arguments, discussing the religion and the things about that, and it has a large place in the society, just as in the US. So there are also similarities.
John is back. I thumbed down by
fantastic.
accident, but John is back.
Yeah, I'm going to throw one out there. In 1863 and 1864, the Russian Navy were protecting the US from being invaded by let's call it the East India Company. Let's call it for what it is, the East India Company and or the French, with a very large chunk of its vast warfare navy. They were patrolling the east coast of the US to prevent that, to give the civil war that was ongoing a fair chance without getting, when it was weak, when US was weakened by the civil war. Of course, the Viking crown of the UK were preparing to make the move, and this is the good tradition carried on by people that really cared about this, that understood Oxenstierna. They understood this nefarious, brilliant, the rock star of central banking and of the military industrial complex, no doubt. So in 1776, the Swedish king, Gustav III, not the one that was just prior, the Gustav II, the Lion of the North, the 30-Year War and the Peace of Westphalia and all of this Oxenstierna stuff. This is later on. He actually helps out the 1776 with officers and a whole lot of soldiers together with the French king. So English, French speaking, Sweden has been a warrior nation, war. Sweden went from being war, occupying everything, doing nefarious things, Viking style and everything, to be in 1814 to be the neutral country together with Switzerland. Oh, what a coincidence. More or less running under the same kind of legal scheme as the City of London, the Vatican and Washington DC. So that's sort of the main points of it. Anyways,
yeah, and what else took place in 1863 that you're aware of?
And by the way, in addition to that, you can look to the conspirators' hierarchy, the Committee of 300, which again details some of the royal bloodlines and some of those that had long-term interests in these nations that were built, including the United States in the 1800s.
Agreed.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of my points, because what else took place in 1863, which a lot of people are becoming more aware of now, what the Emancipation Proclamation actually did, and the installing of who we know to be the first bar attorney into the newly founded corporation at the time.
Yeah. That is even worse than the Civil War, actually, in the long-term perspective.
We have a hand mod. Joquette, am I saying your name right? I hope, I pray.
Jacques Strap, yeah. It's French.
Yes, very French. Mont, I don't know what you did, buddy, but you're flowing with your English. Your English is flowing now. You used to have to stutter and think about words. Your English is flowing, so you're getting your message across really hardcore. So this is awesome. I love this, and please go ahead.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm practicing. I'm thinking in English all day. I've been thinking in English for many, many years, speaking also, in work and so on. But practice. I talk a lot in these spaces and so on. But the word, the English is actually Old Norse converted, but it's also destroyed. This is the word magic that they are using up on us. The Nordic languages, and especially Swedish and Norwegian, they are very, very exact. You can combine words into very long words that will give a exact description of something, whatever you want to talk about. The English, though they set up intentionally, I would say, I would assume, I could speculate, you can call it whatever. So in English, there is one word for each and every of these combined words. It's a hard time, so you will invent for a certain feeling, a level of feelings, whatever. You will have to invent a new word or combine it or have it divided, and then it will not be, as exact as if you put them together. So the Nordic languages are they are really complex, but they are also very, very very exact when you want to deliver something. You can do, and this what was intrigued Tolkien. That was hanging around in Sweden and so on. He was for you guys that don't know, he was working the British intelligence services. He understood being a banker's son out of South Africa. He learned the Nordic languages fluently. He did never get to the Finnish. The Finnish is not related to the other Nordic languages. It is a language for itself. And that is more close to, let's call it, the base language for everything. The Finnish and the Egyptian lettering and so on and so on. It's very, very, very close to being a base language, as a root language, the Finnish. It occurs, it has...
I'm sorry to jump in.
Yeah,
Mark.
jump in.
Do you think, knowing that, combining that and using the, I don't know, technology they let us learn with these large language models, we could eventually recreate or generate the actual most, because the Greek, ancient Greek is pretty impressive because it never stops.
Exactly.
Ancient Greek language never stops. So do you think we could ever create a model to help people learn how to, communicate in that language?
Actually, there have been some years ago, like 20 years ago, they actually tried to make a world language based upon Greek, Spanish, and English, but it fell flat. But there were some people learning it and so on, which and it was a good try. But I think that with the let's call it like this, we are seeing scientists, archaeologists, and all of people working freely now all over the world. We are seeing the history is being changed as we speak, and I would say that we will get, with the kind of computer capacity we have these days, and have had for a long time, actually, with quantum computers and AI and so on. I will tell you a story about the AI inventor with regards to what we were talking about earlier. Anyways, so with that kind of capacity, we will probably be able to get to the root language, which possibly would be, the Finnish, the Greek, the Egyptian language, and so on. We will, I'm pretty sure that there are people right now working 24/7 on this topic. It's not a new topic, but with regards of that, we have, we are rewriting history. We discovered pyramids that are 20,000 years old just half a year ago. The Swedish history is for sure being rewritten because there is so many things.
Göbekli Tepe. Mott,
Yeah.
Göbekli Tepe, and they're trying to hide it. They don't want us to uncover that.
Yeah, it's not only that. They actually discovered Göbekli is not a pyramid, but they discovered a pyramid on a island in I think the Indian Ocean, I think, that they were 100% sure about the date on, and that is 50,000 years off from what we have been told before. We have the iron manufacturing, which is a big deal up here in the north. The iron manufacturing moved 2,000 years here. The advanced ones, multi-layer, different kinds of iron to make, whatever. It moved that much, and that is then before the year zero, way before the year zero. And it's really crazy stuff. So we are living in a paradigm shift. We'll have to tread carefully, not jumping to any conclusions and so on, but we can see the history is being rewritten. And we can see that this kind of, the guardians of the old system, they are cracking now. They are cracking up because these people probably have lots of more facts than we have. Because if you're going to defend a system, a history, or whatever, being a historian, from the university, blah, 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 all of this. If you're going to defend it and create sort of disinformation without lying, still being serious and so on. You really need to know what you are defending. So these people, they know, and they will probably, some of them will come clean and start to talk about the true history of our nations, our countries. It's a little bit easy. Yeah,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I thought you were finished. Sorry about that.
I was actually landing my plane there, but by saying it's a little bit easier with the U.S. history because it's not so long. Well, if we count out the uprunnings, what happens before the first migration waves, because that is a more complex history actually. And we're gonna go Viking again. Some of the Vikings probably missed Greenland when they were navigating and then ended up in the US. Even Elon has tweeted about that. They found that out. So it has an older history, of course, but that is also hidden. They don't want us to know that as well. Just to keep the American public kind of unaware. And with the German school, which you have today as well, that's the same bullshit school that was implemented in Germany and in the Western countries, and of course in Sweden. And the postmodern variant of it is the transgender dysphoric fucking bullshit destroying our kids, and that is not so good. And then we will come to the XX rated
But by the way, speaking of destruction, because again, it's back to the languages, and I know there have been different schools of thought in terms of what the original language was prior to the dispersion event, which many scholars have attributed to around the fall of the period around the Tower of Babel. But again, I've come across Anahazi as a tonal language, which is what's discussed in Keylontic science. And I'm not saying that is what the original tonal language is. What I am suggesting is that there was a point in the creation in humanity where we were genetically able to adopt the tongue, basically the tone, and be able to enunciate and to speak. And that relates to, again, genetics, and it relates to the human genetic template and the DNA, which again speaks to, again, whether or not we go to a history of creation vis-a-vis the what is the mainstream, which is the evolution that is indoctrinated into our public schools. So I mean, my research, look, I'm not trying to get into discussion on this. I just want to point out that if you are in the camp of that there was creation of, let's say, the Adam and Eve story, and even prior to with Atlantis, Lumeria, and so on, with this most recent seeding of humanity, that we have here now, it would be reasonable, in my opinion, at least, and feel free to debate me on it if you like. But I think it's reasonable that if the same people or entities, Anunnaki, let's say, just keep it simple, that created or helped to genetically engineer this current seeding of humanity post Adam, why would they not have also given their their methodology, their language, their method of communication in the process originally? And again, Anuhazi from Anunnaki, which were allegedly created by Anu Elohim, which were a fallen race from the Elohai Elohim, which again, this relates to what is discussed in many circles. Again, going back to what people talk about in terms of the age of Melchizedek and who these people were that were followers of Abraham, and who they got their knowledge from, and where the knowledge was from was considered to be from, again, the the angels or the heavens or the heavenly, sky people, however you want to call it. It's essentially the same story that's been told around the world for ages. So I think it was just worthwhile to just put that little tangent into the discussion, just so that we have at least some bit of a temp or background for everybody in the space, as far as how we came to be to this day, where we have, I think it's well over 1,000 languages and dialects around the world. And it's no wonder there's so much fighting and warring when there's so much misunderstanding and miscommunication taking place.
Well, Frank, I think one point that I was going to add to, just to, uber simplify it, we're doing our part, right? Mott, you're doing your part. Peter, Mott's secretary, and everybody here in the space is doing their part. Mott, you brought up the kind of generational protectorate, right? As far as on their end. We are the guardians of a new historical realm as well. And if we apply it in the way where generationally we can be an asset, we can protect history. We can protect our culture, our language too, which plays a part into the greater good, but also the grand scheme of preserving things so it's not lost. You can see every way, shape, and form into our classrooms over the years. We've seen them burn books, and that's nothing new to history itself either. And so you bringing this history is really salvaging and bringing forth to people who this was completely pulled over their eyes. They were completely indoctrinated, and that's why it is so important. We do our part locally. We do our part, to preserve our history, our nationalities, our backgrounds, our dialects, our language, because it does inevitably, play into things. And if you look at it, we already have a one world language. It's called English, but the universal English is different than American English, for instance. And even Americans have a hard time deciphering what that means and how that's used against us, because they use that in the court systems. And I mention the court systems a lot. Why? Because it's what enslaves most of humanity. And this oligarchy is so deeply rooted in this universal context of things by their design, by their wants and needs, based on their doctrines of belief. It is really, disgustingly, shaped the place of where we're at today. So it's not only essential, but it's crucial for our generations going forward that we preserve the true, real, honest history like you're doing yourself. So, I would just add that, I think regardless of what comes to light on a grand scheme of things, at least having these little bits and nuggets, we can learn, Swedish language if we so choose individually, or other languages for that matter.
And I appreciate you saying all that, John, because a lot of people that may not have studied law, I'm not a lawyer, but, I've had to read through my share of legalese over the years. It's just necessary, if you're going to study a lot of things. So the maritime law and how this country was constructed based on some of these concepts and principles. This is back to the hacking of, again, our belief systems and what we are and who we are and what our purpose and intention for life is, and what even the meaning of life is. And not to get into philosophy, but is it to slave away for a draconian system that is basically, going to tell you that they're going to take care of you from cradle to grave, but at the end of the day, they're really just going to make you sick and exploit your labor and then sacrifice you in the process and poison, families and children. Again, you have to look at what is actually the reality on the ground.
And rent out the money to you created out of thin air and take the rent for it as well. It's a scheme. Oh, it's a fucking Ponzi scheme that we are living in, and but to break out of it, it takes some, mind power.
And some serious perseverance. People are attached to these narratives. They embrace them and they love them with their whole heart. And if you bring up a story that doesn't fall in line with the narrative, you're a demon. You're an asshole. You're racist. You're terrible.
It's cognitive dissonance. It's hard for them to grasp it.
Yeah,
at
I
first.
grew up on a plantation in the South that was a plantation since 1803, and so I have my family history handed down, their mouth to my ears and to their ears from their ancestors' mouth, and things weren't the way that people say. And if you try to bring it up, you're just flat out the devil. The South figured out. It didn't take long to figure out. Well, shoot, here we're buying everybody's food and their clothes and their shelter and all that. It's much better to do an hourly wage. And then if they starve to death, who gives a shit? Like the South was willing to give up slavery way early on because it wasn't financially freaking smart. But if you say that, then it's terrible. Anyway, it's hard to it's hard to hold on to what I believe is real because my granddaddy had no reason to lie to me and to not just keep it to my damn self.
And you should be commended. And I think it's important that we all encourage each other to speak up and speak out, especially in the face of something that's wrong or we know it's wrong. We feel in our heart it is wrong. And it's not said enough. So thank you for sharing a little bit of your story just now, because it helps all of us to rekindle our memories of what we once were and the roots that we come from.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kelly. It's really good to hear. Let's say the root thing of it, when it's handed down by storytelling. That is it's so much more important than we think or react to. But it is really.
It amazes me.
Joe,
I'm blown away that I have my granddaddy hold me in his arms, sitting on the rocking chair, and tell me these stories. So of course they're in my heart. And meanwhile, the rest of society's had the government, handing down this bullshit freaking narrative that someone wrote because they wanted their people to have a fairy tale too, quote unquote. And they love that. They just love it so much. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Joquette, your hand is up. Did I say it right? Did I say her name right?
So I just opened the window.
I'm gonna keep trying. I'll keep trying.
But I'm here. We are on this journey where no one sees the light because they try to keep the darkness in our mind's sight. Right? They tell us fear, they shovel it, and they change gears every time it was challenged. It's always been challenged. What are we afraid of? Right? What are we afraid of? They keep giving us as fears, creating from Fauci from years ago, created AIDS pandemic. Now he's creating this today. Now they got Bill Gates just doing this whole apparatus. Mosquitoes? What is it? What is this? It makes no sense. So I'll park my work truck with this. These little minds have no control over big minds, right? Those big minds have used them as little trolls, little avatars to push their agenda because they are false gods. They have no power, right? Right?
Yes,
So when these little monsters, all they have is minions. Those minions are like ghosts. They're not humans. They don't care about humanity, right? They only care about the next drug or next orgy or whatever they promise them. It might be small. It might be big. but they promise them to sign their soul away. But you can't sell your soul. You'll be recycled anyway. Congratulations. You'll be on your own hell every day. But for thus, we wait for that perfect date when these monsters will conjugate, and then the light will shine down. Anyways, I'm rambling. Sorry, Bible.
What
No,
the hell was
that
that?
was a cool ramble.
I was like
pretty
waiting
cool
for the big boom, and then it was like, meow, meow,
Yeah.
meow.
I loved it. Skeldum, what's going on, my friend?
Good morning, everybody. How is everyone? Still, when you guys start at like 4:30 a.m. I always miss the first half hour or so, but it's all good. I thought I'd just, cause I've said this before, especially when Mott's on and Miss Secretary. I always get a chuckle out of you guys talking about fear and everything. I chuckle out of they call Stockholm syndrome, and I think it's how perfect is it too. So they've been playing with us for a while. Stockholm syndrome, where's that? And yeah, so the whole world's in Stockholm syndrome, aren't we? Fearful of the unknown because they've never shown.
Exactly. It is a perfect way to put it. I hope that Brian is still here, because then he will actually come up and speak about the comfort model, which is connected to the Stockholm syndrome. But yes, Gordon, and nice to hear you, sir. I hope that you are alive and well down under. So now we are not across a pond. Now we are across 2 ponds, quite big ones though. Takes a while to sail them, but
Cheers, mate. I hope you're well too. It's freezing here in Perth. Just started work, so it's nice to listen to you all. Cheers.
Yeah.
You guys remember the Beatles song? Wait, let me grab it, because I heard it now. Living is easy with eyes closed. Misunderstandings all you'll see. That's on purpose to what? Keep us in misunderstanding. That's what I caught from it.
The word
Maybe it's
understanding
just me.
itself, right? Because we have to stand under them, as if
Exactly.
we were supposed to, all from the start, from the get-go. But then once you have those eyes to see and those ears to hear, you're no longer a deaf mute frog. And now we're going to be eating the flies.
Yeah.
Z-bugs.
Well, not Z-bugs.
Yeah, and World Economic Forum. I'm just putting it in there because everybody's discussing this. Oh, it's the World Economic Forum. Yeah, it's founded and created by an individual that died recently. He's called Adolf H. Lundin, and he's married into the Wallenberg family.
Why can't we make a game of catching them? I don't know. I just go full redneck when I think about it sometimes. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. The same goes with Soros. The same goes with Antifa. If you just dig in, take a little spoon and dig a little bit, you will see that it's imported to the US from Sweden, created here, and so on. Actually, one of the founders that is running that kind of bullshit here in Sweden is follow me here on X. They really don't like me. Nobody likes me in Sweden.
We love you, Mod. You're one of the most amazing people I've ever come across in my life, brother.
Thank you, sir. I'm doing my best. I'm just a race car driver that had a conscience, and I've been brought into this from the get-go.
Just don't crash into Wallenberg's headquarters.
Exactly. Oh, I can see Brian. Brian, you're here. Brian, could we end this space with you grabbing a mic? Let's see if Brian can get the mic and talk to us about it.
He's got one.
Okay, I can see on my screen. And Brian, please put the comfort model with the Saab up on top. The Saab and Saab weapon systems and so on is a Wallenberg operation from the get-go. And believe me when I say this, Sweden has not joined NATO. It's NATO that has joined Sweden. Sweden is the tech center for all of the weaponry. Trump has said this a couple of times as well. Well, it's our bombs and it's our missiles, but we don't know where they hit. We cannot decide that. They've been there from the get-go. It's inside the Operation Falukorvien. It is what it is. Brian, we talked about the Stockholm Syndrome and the true essence of the Stockholm Syndrome. Brian is an expert on this subject. I hope Brian will put this in the purple pill. Brian, please talk to us about the comfort model, because that is what we are living in, truly. This is a really good discovery from Brian, and he is a dear friend. He's one of the OGs. Thank you for coming up, Brian. And we will end this space when we are through with the hands and the comfort model. Brian, welcome, sir. I'm so thankful that you are here today. And please talk to us about the comfort model.
Well, thank you for the mic and a moment of your time, I guess. We'll see how this goes for a minute. I do have maybe one or two more other things that I'll share with you, and I'd like to ask you, as recent news coming out, there's a lot of it, and well, I won't dredge on it. I don't want to be long-winded or drag it out. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know it's late already there where you are, and my apologies for showing up late. I was in and out earlier, and I know that you all have a lot to cover. But here, this little part of it, there's a lot more to it than just the comfort model, but the comfort model touches everything. But ladies and gentlemen, it's on my timeline. If you would like to find it there, I've put it in the Jumbotron. If you have enjoyed or appreciated any of the material that has been shared with you through this broadcast, make sure that you like and share it with your friends. That way they may be able to join it also, or look into it further and read things for themselves. That way they may be just as educated or knowledgeable in it, and that they might know parts of history that were maybe hidden. But the comfort model here is absolutely one of the most sinister portions of the act, and that's hiding behind the guise of we're looking down on you, we're better and you're the center, we're in the inside, you're on the outside, sort of a curtain call, if you will, and they frame these things right well. But here we go. The comfort model states, comfort refers to providing strength, hope, and emotional relief to people with existential pain, grief, or loss. The word appears in Old Swedish when it was used in the sense of comfort, security, comfort, and confidence. To give you confidence. And why? Comfort includes physical, psycho-spiritual, and socio-cultural experiences, all right, and leads to improved health. And what are the means by which that leads to improved health? Well, the comfort model states it's a model of comfort that a person is ready to be comforted, like a patient that's in the care of those capable, those over you. They're a lot smarter, they're a lot more talented, they have a lot more at their hands to use on you. Okay, anyway, here we go. The comfort model is that a person is ready to be comforted, and through a comforting dialogue or other interactions, a communion even, a deeply shared sense of belonging occurs that leads to a shift in perspective on what's causing the pain. See, your thoughts, the way you think about things, that's the problem. That's what they need to change, is your mind. So a psyop is needed to change your mind so that we don't put you in a little tiny straitjacket in a round room otherwise, or a prison cell, right? Okay, so they'll put their arm around you and lead you in a comforting manner down a road. It doesn't matter if you want to go that road or not. They're going to put their arm around you and walk you, pull you, force you down that road of it's better this way. Okay, it's just better this way. And here, a communion, okay, occurs that leads to a shift in perspective on what is causing the pain, sorrow, or suffering. Communion can consist of the comforter taking care of everyday chores, like, taking care of you, making sure that you're in order, in line, like police duties, etc. You understand that? Emotional therapists or life coaches or consultants, they're there to get you in line, or you're going out the door. Okay, so the comfort model applies in the corporate level big time. This is not a comfort model like on the individual sovereign ground basis of a constitutional reality. No, this is a comfort model based on equity, friends. Read it thoroughly. I'm going to stop on it because it's rather dreadful to me, but just so you know, I loathe it. It's dreadful to me. And I think that it is, such as like this thing, this model, and such as like the DIE program, diversity, inclusion, and equity. Equity is iniquity. It's sinful. It's the thing that the corporate relies on. Equity is, think of it this way, it's recycling. That's why people got added to the carbon tax, the portfolio tax as carbon tax. Do you understand? I hope you understand that's what, that people got added as the carbon tax. If they can say that cows fart too much and they got to get rid of them, people are a part of that too. And dropping people off the corporate teal is part of climate change. Trimming the fat is what they call it. In case you didn't know, that comes in the white papers. See, with this comfort model, we received the white papers in 1921, right? So after 1921, it took about 8 years for the market to crash, and it took a few years for things to get going and the wars to take off. 2021, the white papers were signed and passed again.
Hold your horses, Brian, there. Hold your horses. 1921, and it took 8 years. And 1929, Bank for International Settlements is launched. Together, of course, yes, with the League of Nations, which we will go deeper into in the next space. Brian, please continue.
Well, you're absolutely right. That's where we crashed and it began. We had the Great Depression and the wars came, and now up to here, 2021, the white papers have been passed again, even worse measures this time. I'm stressing the fact and, hoping that people will hear me, that we might be all prepared for it, ready, because I don't think it'll take as long this time as it did back then, the 8 years to the crash, and then the few years after to the wars began and how things escalated out of control all over the world in Europe. And, because of that, well, I don't think it'll take that long this time to get going. It's maturing rapidly. As a matter of fact, based on the halving event, they said that these things will mature by 2029. That's just ahead of the next election. And with they're set in line, the halving event for Bitcoin, it's in line with the presidential elections, just ahead of them, just before them. They have the halving events, and then they have elections, like elections are coming up now. They just had a halving event. So what does that mean? So effectively, crypto is played out. It's scaled out already. They've already crunched all the numbers. I can crunch them for you my damn self. It's that simple, but it's just equations and stuff. But the point is they've already scaled it out to 2140. All they essentially done was added 20 more years to the teal, and it didn't improve or help anything. It didn't solve one damn thing. You know,
it will
we'll
not.
see.
It will not.
Right.
And Brian, can you? You are a bit younger than me, and hopefully we have some let's call it experienced people here. Can you remember any U.S. presidential election that has not had in your lifetime that doesn't had some kind of a bird flu, swine flu, or whatever in the uprunning to the presidential election? It's same.
Yes, sir.
It's
yes, sir.
so.
Every 10 years they up their climate agenda initiatives, and every few years, I think about every 5 years, the military, you know, with the white paper, every 5 years they do incremental services. So you're absolutely right. Yes, continue. Yeah.
And me being an old fart, I have at least died 8 times, and the world had gone under. And this started in the early 1900s. The world was ending. And they keep on doing the same thing, and people in generations are falling for it because they introduced the German school, or actually the Prussian school. I'm going to say it correctly. This is how they do it. We will take a stamp off, you could say, a jump off on the comfort model. I urge everybody to follow Brian. Brian is a wealth of information. Take a read on the comfort model. Start there, because the comfort model is the basis for what we call in broad terms social engineering. And believe me, the Vikings or these guys, they are the world's best on social engineering. They have done this. It's the art. They have done it to art. They have really done it. It's a very, very small country, but it's very, very sharp. And that is a quote from somebody that actually knows some shit about this. And believe it or not, the only company, the only business that Donald Trump has gone against is the Ericsson company, and that is in 2016. So figure it out. And he's saying this. He also lines them up, the owners, the Wallenberg family, the current ones. He lines them up in the White House, takes pictures and do all of this and so on. This is a power struggle, and we are in this space right now on the tip of that spear, and we are creating something called opinion. We will drag with the 3%. Remember 76, it's just a few of the population, 2-3% that does the job and make things happen. We will take to the next space, Brian. We will start with the comfort model, and we will go to social engineering in a historical perspective. And we will try to step through all of these kind of narratives. We didn't get today to the transgender, the porn thing, the Swedish sin and so on, the transgender stuff, which will start earlier on, actually. They make the first trials in the early 1920s in Germany, and then they decide how to do it. They always play it with the opinion. They need to have the opinion with them to make it happen. So, Tish, Secretary Jon, let's go through the hands, and then I will wrap it up, and I will put a little bit of a video up in the Jumbotron, and I will read a short sentence from that before we crash land this one.
Joquette and then Brian.
Thank you so much. This is such a beautiful space where we're talking about such amazing things that need to be addressed that no one is talking about. And one is that porn industry that's utilized by the Zionists, right? It's not that hard to figure out. And then you could go back. And it's going to end up with Erickson, right?
Joquette, I wouldn't say the Zionists, but the oligarchy runs the Zionists. You know, if you can manufacture money out of thin air, you will get on the upper hand of this. But I would agree that the Zionist community created, some of them are forced into it, whatever. They are a good part of it, but you will end up in Sweden. You will end up in
Yes,
Sweden.
sir. And I agree with that. You just got to address
So
each level. But yes, thank you.
It is like our previous speaker here, Mr. Frank said before. It will come in all stripes and shapes and colors and so on. All people that is running like this left and right thing, the political things, whatever, they are lost, or they are, maybe they are working for somebody, getting paid to talk like that. I do not talk like that because, well, I know some shit. So, left wing, right wing, political parties, whatever, doesn't really matter. It's just two wings of the same bird. The same goes for all of these other ones, because the oligarchy, they don't really they play all of this. The church have been used for what it used, and we'll get into the pornocracy of the Pope together with the Longobards and so on, and we will get into the new era of porno, the Swedish scene, the XX Swedish movies and all of this, and it will connect into the transgender stuff, and we run that the next space, because we are not overdue, but it's getting late, and that will be the theme for the next space. And we will start it with Brian's comfort model again, explained again and again and again and again, because this is Brian has analyzed this very thoroughly, and it is actually the basis. It's like oligarchy thinking 101, but sometimes it's spelled out, and when you can see it, you can see it, and then we have to go from there. So sorry to interrupt you, Kat. I'm just going to throw it in there, because Zionism, and you will find the Warboys there as well. We will dive into this. And I will give you a hint here, Joquette, to check out in my tweets or whatever, or my ex posts. I'm not sure that I even written this one. Usually I talk about it. Check out Otto Warburg. He is the Warburg family, same as with the Fed and with the Wallenbergs and all this big family. There is one Otto Warburg. He is the Zionist leader from 1910 to 1920, before he, gives the European leadership to somebody else. He is the OG in Israel. That is the Warburg family. That is the OG. He's the Theodor Herzl and these guys. Yeah, they were hired in to do something. That well-spoken, good at trivium, good at rhetorics, and so on. Body. But the real deal behind it is Otto Warburg, and he's like, is the real deal. Check him out if you want to check Zionism out. And they call it, and a good cooperation with the Nazis. And the Nazis, so both the Zionists and the Nazis, it is same. They are working together, and they are doing it because they have the same master, and the masters are, in this case, the oligarchy, the banksters, the Wallenbergs, and all of these guys. The Warburgs, they are everywhere. Check IG Farben out, and also check the Wallenbergs out when it comes to the IG Farben, which will later on be what is running our fucking lives today. So it's the same ones. But Otto Warburg, there is another Otto Warburg, and then we will enter into the medical area, to the nefarious food industry, the really bad medical industry. Because this Otto Warburg, he will receive the Merchant of Death Prize in, I think it's 1931, for his discovery, working at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, of course, sponsored by Rockefeller and run by the Wallenbergs and these guys. And the Nobel Prize is run by the Wallenbergs. You can go and watch any kind of TV report or whatever. They are on the front row there. The king is there and doing his, the Swedish sort of Swedish-French king. After Gustav III, the guy who actually helped out with the 1776, they decided to move in a French bloodline into their kings because they didn't want to have any more revolutions. So it is quite amazing to see it. They killed him just like they killed Kennedy, for the more or less for the same reason, or same basic reasons at least. That's the only king in the world history that actually made a revolution against the oligarchy or against the banksters and their he is an amazing person, this Gustav III, actually. And he's, of course, in mainstream history, he's downwritten, he's, ridiculed, whatever. But what he really did, he was the first statesman to sign the 1776, the US as a nation. Oh, sorry, as a republic. This is the guy. This is the first statesman from any country in anywhere in the world who said, this is a republic. I recognize you as a republic. This is the first guy. And so he's amazing. And he sent his officers. They were the tip of the spear with loads and loads of soldiers. Nobody knows how many. They probably some few of you listening here is actually in the bloodlines of these guys, because many of them stayed. French soldiers mainly, but and Swedish officers. But you might be a relative to these guys that actually, and those were the professionals. Those were the sort of the killing machines. The bad boys with a gun that knew how to fight in those circumstances back in the day. So he really did know what he was doing. So he should be honored. They should tear down that fucking obelisk and put the statue of Gustav III in Washington, and then these people will be amazed, coming there and saying, this is the first statesman outside the republic.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, go.
I don't want to cut you off. Sorry. I don't want to cut you off. You're great. I love listening to you talk about these things. But I wanted to ask you a quick question. Right now, things going on right now. Focus your attention a moment. I know you're tired. I know it's late there. My apology, sir. Thank you. Sam Altman, I know you're familiar with, right? So Sam Altman and the OpenAI board, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so we're on the same page. Okay, so
Yes.
here we go. Just to get your take, I want your reaction and honest appeal here, because I think we've cornered both of them, and now singling them out, we know which one's which, and maybe what they'll do with them from here. They might let them actually just compete, let them open their own companies and see what they do here. But this is today's news. Former Open AI chief scientist, Ilya Sutskever, unveils, his partner, the co-founder in OpenAI, the chief scientist, unveiling new AI company. OpenAI co-founder and former chief scientist is starting a new artificial intelligence company called Safe Super Intelligence Inc., focused on creating a secure, advanced AI system that's way smarter than humans. We've started the world's first straight shot, safe, super intelligence lab, he said. On social media platform X, no doubt, right here. Our singular focus means no distraction by management, overhead, or product cycles. And our business model means safety, security, and progress are all insulated for short-term commercial pressures. That's just half of it. Please give me a take on that.
Am I the only person that heard anti-freedom, complete slavery, total bondage when you read those things? Am I the only one?
Well, not really. And
No, it's fine, people. Just accept the AI. Calm down. Get that chip in your brain. We'll be all fine. But don't worry about the 5G towers and all the other stuff they put in the food, water, and don't worry about it. Everything's fine. We're not in a total takeover of humanity.
No. It's the comfort model revisited, you could say, and letting these guys, making the scams, the kind of billion, trillion, whatever, it's fiat currency. I know that, but nevertheless, making these scams and just walk out of it without even dust on the shoes. That reminds me of the Nuremberg theatrical trials, where Goering had to die. They could not put him on the stand because he knew all about it. He was living in Sweden for a long time. He was honeypotted in Sweden as a PTSD fighteress and so on. He's the right hand of Adolf Hitler, who also were, heavily on drugs and so on. But they made a run for it. They had their own agenda. There was a power struggle between the oligarchs as well. So it's a complex history. But we will revisit all of those. But the main thing is that we will go to the social engineering, the next space, and to the porn, to the revisit, of course, the Prussian school and our current school systems that we are living in, and to the transgender, transhuman stuff, and so on. And we will be back. It will all. It circles always back to ground zero, and we will see it clearly, and we will help each other out to see it. And when we can see it and we can adapt what we can see to the different continents, because we are on several continents here in this small little space, we will be able to see it, and we will be able to discuss it. And I think that this space, yet again, Tish, Jon, Secretary, beautiful work from you guys, and it's been very nice. We are on the last 10 minutes. We will end at 17 minutes past the hour. It just, yeah, 9 minutes then. Okay, it just switched to wait, but it doesn't really matter. So we will try to run through the last hands and wrap it up because we need to end this, because the kind of information that is thrown out here, it's not for a long space, and this is 3 hours, and it's so much information and so much to digest for anybody that is hanging out here. So the speaker panel, you've been beautiful. Kelly, Peter, Joquette, Brian, Skaldam, you guys will have the last.
You don't talk about chocolate.
Did I say it correctly? Beautiful. So anybody that is in the crowd and listening, if you have some questions about what we have discussed, and try to, as good as we can, with the limited knowledge that we as individuals can have in a very complex world, please come up, grab a mic, and give us some feedback. That would be really great. And any questions are welcome. And the speaker panel, you've been beautiful today. I am so happy. I hope that you guys that are listening into this space are happy with it as well. Getting some information that can, make things move along a little bit. I'm not going to be long-winded now. So, Tish, throw out some mics. Get some more great listeners up here and just say hello, even if it's.
Any questions, guys? If you'd like to come up for a mic. A round of applause. Wonderful. What a wonderful space. What an epic space. We've learned so much. Does anybody have any questions? Please grab a mic.
Listen, while we're waiting on that, if anybody has a question, you can, if you don't want to say it out loud with your voice, you can put it in the purple pill and ask a question. Somebody will respond to you. But listen, the nature of these conversations aren't meant to be easy. We're talking about them. Mott, he gives a great sort of a comedical, a little bit of a comedian appeal, kind of light-mannered, but we're actually talking about, we're fixing to get into the harder parts because we're talking about now and the things that's happened in our lives. And the problem with that is how it's touched people's lives and how it's affected them or affected the people around them, or even how they view society. So this is not going to be easy. Rather, though it's said, we're going to talk about this and just kind of fly through it, and we can do that. But that's like trying to walk through Arlington Cemetery in a hurry. That it just don't happen. So, friends, we thank you, and I thank you for even entertaining me. That because I don't come with the easiest kind of conversation. It gets worse from here, and most people don't enjoy most of the things that I have to say because it comes with a lot of disdain, and I wish we would do better. I wish that they would have made better choices and relied on us, we the people, far more than they thought that we were incapable. That really matters. And especially going forward, we're going to need the efforts of everyone, not just a portion. And that's even stronger. That's even harder to say because you would almost be foolish. It would cost you your soul to get involved now. That's just how bad it is. And they're expecting people to still get involved. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. That's just how hard it is. This wouldn't have been near as hard 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. But no, they've brought it to a point to where now they're giving everyone no choice but to be in it and a part of it and accused of something or there's no such thing as having another Jesus walk the earth. A perfect person. No, they set that straight. So here we go.
Indeed so.
Thank you, Brian.
Indeed so. Thank you, Brian.
We have Kelly and Skoldum. I'm not sure who was
Skoldum's
first
up
on
before
our
me.
system.
Skoldum.
Thanks, Cal. Skoldum?
I'll just be quick. You said we lose our souls if we go, but we also may gain our souls if we fight, and you said you come across with disdain, but I because you're probably fighting against that comfortable problem that you're talking about, and that must be frustrating, especially with your knowledge. But I wanted to mention this is an Olympic year. The Olympics are on, and I was thinking about it the other day, and you guys were talking about 1936, the Olympics, and then after that there was the big war, one of them. So I think during the Olympic times, that's world sort of, everyone's going to be sidetracked or hoodwinked at that stage. So probably have to be more vigilant, and that's probably why it's really good to have spaces like this, because we can keep in contact and share what we know. But I think this year is going to be, or this Olympic year is going to be pretty wild. A lot of things will happen and shift around that time.
Thank you, Skala.
Yes, thank you, Skoldum.
Sorry, I'm just going to give a quick fact there. The BRICS Games, which is like an alternative Olympics with 5,000 athletes are competing right now, or they are finishing it up maybe today or yesterday in something as a opposite. They are showing the strengths even in the sports, which is of course important to a lot of people, and should never be underestimated, because of the nature of us as humans, we have a tendency to wrap it up. But Skallam, even more importantly, what you were saying the first is that our beds are burning, and that is a good contribution to where we are from the down under. So how can we sleep when our beds are burning? Because they are. And this is why we, in this era of time, in this paradigm shift, we have to bring it forward to the future generations by telling the story and the history as well. Let's go to
I didn't know you were a Midnight Oil fan.
Oh,
Midnight.
I
am. Good stuff.
I even have some other Australian bands in my good old. I was playing the DA. I was doing the DA thing back in the day. The Church, tremendous band. Maybe even better. Very underrated. I recommend everybody to go to on the YouTube and check the Church out. You will find, well, there are highs and lows, but nevertheless, and of course, Man at Work is it's in my root, so to speak. It's in my root. So yeah.
Good stuff. Kelly, did you have a question?
Not so much a question, just I wanted to talk to other people in the room that haven't grabbed a mic. My mom went and took this really cool class or school, whatever, on the chakra system. And when she got done with it, she was so excited, and she was telling me all about it. And she got confused at one point on which chakra was where. And so after 20 minutes of her explaining chakras to me, I was like, oh no, that's the heart chakra. That's the one above. And she's like, wait a minute, you already know this? And I was like, well, yeah, I've been studying that shit for years. And she was like offended at first. I was like, no, Mom, what I'm learning from you is a new perspective, a different way of looking at it. And so if you learn something in these spaces, it's also really cool to jump up and say, wow, this, was a watershed moment for me, or, this made me think differently, because it might open other people's eyes too. So please do share. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
And as I rudely, sorry, Pavel, as I rudely interrupted Carol, I said 528 chakra, right? That what she was talking about. I think. Anybody else have thoughts about that?
She was talking about the heart chakra.
Isn't that 528 hertz? Or is that just.
I just chose a random one. I don't remember exactly where Mom got confused, but just the point was I wanted to hear her concept. I wanted her perspective on the chakra system because it was new for me, even though I've studied it for years.
Yeah, so explained in a different way, you could see it in a different light, basically. Right? Thank you.
Yes.
Or just go sit down by the river and stick your feet into the river and feel the vibration of the water on a sunny day. Well, it could actually be a rainy day, it doesn't really matter. Water, moving water in the rivers, in the creeks, in the small waterways. Use it and also think about the marvelous effect of hydropower and the negative effects of hydropower also with damming up, and also think about the legalese around this, because the water power or the hydropower, hydropower is the correct English expression, is a key factor to understand where we are and where we are not are. And then we get to the nuclear stuff, and then we get back to the same nefarious, with the fat boy and slim man and all of these nefarious things that have been happening, and you will get back in history to these people, the same one as with the banking and the Bank for International Settlements and all this. Tish, we will wrap it up now. We are running a
Yes, sir.
minutes over, and in the Jumbotron there is a little bit of a movie clip, actually created by an old man, meaning me, that actually have learned a little bit how to cut these videos and so on. It will include the Guardians of the Galaxy mentioned by Frank, that was here and talking about before. We are the Guardians, and this is the inspirational stuff that we can do. I will read a very, very short poem, but it's very, very true in the times that we are living in. I will not read it in Italian. That will be Tisha, because she's a heritage of the Lombardy, so she will learn how to read this in Italian as well. It's much more beautiful in Italian, but I will do it in English. And then I will simply crash the ordinary, and then we are done for today. The old world is dying. The new one is slow to appear. In this mix of light and darkness, monsters are born. This is from Antonio Gramsci, a Italian philosopher. And with that said, I will crash my good old banged up Su-37 straight through the front doors of the Malmvik Castle, loaded with some really stinky Nobel dynamite. Boom, boom.
Wonderful. I love it. We're ever so grateful. Mott and Mott's secretary, they stay up late for us to learn this stuff. So we're so grateful for you guys and your knowledge. God bless you for all you do for us. John, Peter, Brian, Scoldum, Kelly, all of you. I love you all. Thank you guys for all your knowledge. So we're going to end for now, and we will see you on Thursday. Look out for the invitation, and please, please follow each other. And if anybody has questions, we didn't have a pill today, so just DM me. It's fine, and I'll get them to the group. So God bless everybody. Have a great day and evening. Take care, guys, and enjoy the festival tomorrow. Good night.